Welcome to this video presentation on the search for missing parents. I hope you'll find the information helpful in using diligent efforts to locate missing parents with resources that you might find on the internet or elsewhere. With the idea of theming this presentation around Encyclopedia Brown, I've broken the presentation up into 5 different chapters, and each chapter is a different case. Chapter 1 is the case of the warm body. Chapter 2 I've entitled The Case of the Reporter's Pen, which will discuss using local resources to identify and find parties. Chapter 3 is entitled The Case of the Worldwide Surfer. Next, in Chapter 4, we'll discuss the case of the matriarch's crib. And in Chapter 5, we'll discuss the case of the Glee Club trophy. We all know that all warm bodies are not that warm, especially a mother who we just took her children away from her due to a deprivation case. So I want to encourage you to think about interviewing all kinds of witnesses: mothers, fathers, grandparents, relatives, school teachers, probation workers, parole officers, etc. The goal here is to collect and gather clues so that we can locate the missing parent. Get all of the information you can during your initial intake and then follow up on that with other people. So think about everybody who you might use. I've provided a list here for your consideration. One of the hardest jobs of the attorney involved in serving parents and getting cases into court is knowing the information. So please pass the information that you do collect, no matter what the small nugget of information is, along to other case managers and to the Special Assistant Attorneys General. It might be that this small bit of information is what it takes for us to be able to track down a missing parent. Next, in the case of the reporter's pen, this is all about using your local resources. Use resources such as the local newspaper's website, or tax records, or real estate records, or local defects agencies, or schools, or sheriff's departments to collect information about parents that might not be available elsewhere. Next, in the case of the worldwide surfer, once you've collected nuggets of information from warm bodies and from local resources, it's time to consider using the World Wide Web and hacking the data that you have to use the internet. Websites that have proved useful will be listed as Google, people.yahoo.com, ZabaSearch, melissadata.com, Intellius.com, mylife.com, etc. When you don't have much useful information to go on, using these websites to search what you do have and to try to expand your areas of knowledge can be very useful. Also, don't forget to check out social media websites like Facebook, MySpace, and Google+. While parents often are smart enough not to use these sites to produce incriminating information, that's not always the case. I've had some very interesting cases, all the way to the point of a pedophile admitting his guilt on his MySpace page. So do check out social media spaces for comments by parents and other friends. Now, in the case of the matriarch's crib, I just want to emphasize the importance of relatives, especially those relatives that have been around for a while. The mother-in-law or the mother who owns some real estate and who knows the entire family history. These can be great sources of information. Maybe they don't know exactly where the father lives, but they might know where cousin Johnny is or somebody else. And so it's good to go and collect as many little gold nuggets of information as possible that we can use then to track somebody down. We use the information we gather from these resources, such as the matriarch's crib, to magnify this evidence. These small gold nuggets might be what's useful for us in our internet search or our other local data gathering. We can also use this information to diversify our search. Diversification of our search is very important. This is where you start considering options like tax assessor websites, Department of Corrections websites, etc. It's important to think about all of the resources available to us. I want to walk through an example where we use a few gold nuggets of information to track down additional information about a mother that we're having a difficult time serving and finding. So in this case, we know a few bits of information. We know that the mother has a criminal history. We know that the mother is known to have probably resided in Pennsylvania for a little while. And we know the mother's name is Jessica Lynn Gray. And a nice thing about her name is that she spells it a bit unusually. So we're going to start out just with a Google search for Jessica's name. So we'll put in Jessica Lynn Gray and search that. And immediately we see a mugshot hit. So we click on that to see if that's our person. And sure enough, we recognize the photographs. That's her. So then we go down to see if there's any useful information. And we see that she has a law enforcement record for a traffic violation, driving without a license, fairly recent, May 2011 in Florida. And we go up and we see that that is Charlotte County, Florida. So that's good information. Now we can search the Charlotte County Clerk of Court records for more detailed information. Go back to our Google search. Let's expand that a bit by leaving out our middle name and searching just Jessica Gray. We could check out any hits we get for that name, see if it's the right person. This does not look like the same Jessica Gray, so we'll skip that. And as we look down, we see that there's a mugshot from Pennsylvania. That's something that's suspicious because we think she may have lived there for a while. So we click on that, and sure enough, there she is again. So looking down, we see that she had some more serious charges in Pennsylvania, some kind of conspiracy, receiving stolen property. So we look to see what additional information we find here. We see Washington County, Pennsylvania. So that's good. Now we've narrowed it down from a state to a county. So now we have a better chance of finding more information about her from the Washington County Clerk of Court. So going back to Google, one way we can quickly locate a Clerk of Court website is just put in a search, something like Clerk Court, Charlotte County, Florida. I missed the Florida, but we still found it. Barbara Scott's the Clerk of Court, and we click on that. That takes us to her website, and there we look for some way that we can search court records to see this mother's criminal history and see if those criminal records give us any additional information. So we identify the menu item for searches and court records and click on that. And we have a couple of options. One of those is to search by name, last name and first. So we're going to do that. Gray, Jessica, and search. And very quickly we have a nice list here of criminal cases against Jessica Lynn Gray, who I think was born in 1987 because of the identification provided next to these people. So this Jessica L. Gray, 1967, is probably not the same person. So we're looking at these cases here, which are probably all the same person. I'm going to look at this one in particular, and it shows that she was adjudicated guilty of this crime of operating a motor vehicle without a license. And that was fairly recent status update in 2012. We can click on View Case and see what else it has. There's an attorney name who represented her, we believe, so that could be handy. And a criminal arraignment, March 2012, is scheduled for her. That means she is probably in Charlotte County as we speak. Now I also want to look at the Washington County records. So I've already gone to Google and I put in Washington County, Pennsylvania Clerk of Court, and that came up with this website page. So looking at the page, I'm looking for some way I can search court records, and I find research. And it says these pages are dedicated to research of court-related records, which is what we're looking for. So we're going to click the link, Portal for Research, and look down the page. We're mainly right now interested in criminal records. Here's a statewide common pleas court case lookup. So let's check that out. Criminal courts of common pleas is one of the docket sheets that we can search. We want to search by participant name. Last name is Gray. First name is Jessica. Let's put in the county. We know it's Washington County from the mugshot, so we're going to choose that. And now, hopefully it will give us some results. Yes, yay. So let's check this out. We've got a couple of Jessica Gray's, Washington County, 2009 cases. She was born in 87, so that's some good validating information. And we got docket sheets that we can look at. Tells us some things about the case, what she was charged with: burglary, theft by taking, receiving stolen property. So we start to get a better idea about Jessica Gray and go on and can read all sorts of goodies about her. And also now we know her exact date of birth because that was listed earlier. Very good information. Also, just take a quick look at this other sheet, the court summary on the other case. Gives us a nice summary of her date of birth, her name, where she's from, and her description, criminal charges, and so on. Great information. This can help with case planning, permanency planning, what have you. Keep in mind that people like probation officers, parole officers, attorneys who represented this mother may be great sources for more information. And now that we know exactly what she was charged with, what her case numbers were, and that sort of information, we can probably call the clerk of court and find out even more. Let's move on now to looking at some of the local resources that I discussed earlier. This is the postsearchlight.com, which we found by searching Bainbridge newspaper in Google. And I'm just going to do a sample search for Edwin Perry, who we all know is the judge in Decatur County. And just to give you an example of how you can put in someone's name and come up with information. In this case, I'm assuming he hasn't been arrested or cited, but we'll probably find that there's somebody by the name Perry on this page if we search for it. And sure enough, there's a Derek Perry, so it's a good search. Finds things we're looking for by name. And here's an article that involves Judge Perry, the Judicial Citizen Review Program, which is involved with Family and Children's Services, and it mentions his name here in the article, Judge Edwin Perry. So great. That shows just how you can search some local resources. Another local resource I like to teach about is the Board of Tax Assessors. I brought up the webpage for Decatur counties. Again, you can find this just by searching in Google for Decatur County Tax Assessor. And let's just search. Again, we'll use Judge Perry as a guinea pig, and we see an E.J. Perry III, several of them, and some other Perrys. Let's just look at this one since those are his initials. And this is his office, so we were able to find his address and some information about his property ownership. And so that's very useful for relative research and things like that. So those are the examples I wanted to cover today. Keep in mind, when you look for a mother, you may find MySpace pages, Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, and things like that. And click on those links and check them out. You never know what kind of gold you might find. Okay, now I want to wrap up this presentation with the last chapter, the case of the Glee Club trophy. I call it that because Encyclopedia Brown always wanted to solve the mystery, and he always got a thrill out of it, just like a Glee Club does when they sing great music. And there are some good benefits and good reasons why doing a diligent search and using some of these extra resources to locate parents and relatives are beneficial and worthwhile and can be fun as we solve the mysteries. Doing these searches is more than just meets the eye. To review some ways that you're relieved from the permanency pressure cooker, let's look at what the goals of the Child and Family Services reviews are. These goals are to improve safety, improve permanency, and improve well-being outcomes for children. So how do location efforts fit in with this? Let's look at safety. Doing location efforts checks, or making diligent location efforts, improves our knowledge about parents and their background and their family. This improved knowledge gives us details, such as in Jessica Gray's case, about her history of burglary and theft by receiving property. And this background of instability and crime helps us to know better how to serve these clients and how to ensure stable, safe placement. Looking at permanency, obviously these location efforts help us to find support systems for family through relatives and other friends and people with significant connections. Finally, these efforts help with permanency in that they help to rule out quickly whether or not family are available to the child or children, and whether or not it's necessary to move towards foster care and adoption in a more speedy manner. And this helps to avoid legal delays where family intervenes or parties aren't happy with the progress that's being made. Lastly, let's look at well-being, which is another part of the CFSRs. These location efforts, as I mentioned and alluded to, can help with finding child support for children. Also, it can help find relative permanency options that are better for children than non-blood related family or foster parents. And it helps child's well-being because these options are discovered and ruled out quickly, which helps avoid delays in permanency, which is always in the child's best well-being. And finally, I already talked about this, but these efforts can help build a historical profile of the family, and that knowledge is important to the quality of your casework, which leads me to quality. Without location efforts like this and taking these extra measures, case review and quality assurance suffer. These efforts help to move cases forward more quickly and more comprehensively. It avoids overlooking stakeholders that might need to be apprised of the situation, helps to complete the array of services that are necessary to support children and families by knowing all of the necessary information, helps reduce stress on foster and adoptive families through determining quickly whether or not relatives are available, and then determining whether or not foster parents or potential adoptive parents are the most likely scenario for permanence, which also helps in recruitment and retention of foster parents and adoptive parents because these issues with family and relatives are resolved more quickly. Suggest to you that you use the tidbits of information and tips that were provided in this video to help you improve your location efforts, expand your abilities to find parents based on small amounts of information so that we can serve children better and move cases along in court quicker. Thank you.